Yo, what is going on, Comfy Gang? It's your boy Company here. So first of all, thanks for replying to the post that I put out earlier about making an anime related video. I probably won't be, I guess, talking about that in this video because I have something else planned, but I definitely will be making a video about that in the near future because, well, you guys seem to be interested in it. And for that video, I probably will at least try and relate it to being in need to some extent, simply to, I guess, make as many people as possible find it interesting. And if that video still does well, then I'll probably, I guess, talk more about anime and maybe make more videos like that. But I might also just make more anime videos anyway, simply because it's starting to get a little bit hard to come up with video topics purely about, NEETdom. So yeah, anyways, for this video, what I wanted to talk about is this sort of like, I guess, realization that I came to, or something that I've been kind of like thinking about for a while as far as like video topics go. And it's that, well, being a NEET is like being in a time capsule. And at least from my own perspective, it definitely feels like that. And what do I mean by like time capsule? Well, I'm not sure if you guys do this in your respective countries, wherever you're from, but I feel like if they probably should do this all over the world, because I feel like it is sort of like a Western thing, and Western cultures all over the world to an extent. So I feel like, yeah, most people will have experienced this. But anyways, what I'm referring to is this phenomenon where, people in like schools or maybe office buildings, or like a lot of times like as part of like, you know, community events in some sort of like town, in their like public square, or like some city hall thing, what they'll do is they'll get this sort of like romantic idea of, sending a message to people in the future. And in order to accomplish this, what they'll do is, oftentimes they'll write letters either to themselves in the future or to people of the future, addressed to people in the future. And then they'll, talk about their hopes, dreams, expectations of what the future is going to be like, and all sorts of other topics, random shit that they're thinking about at the time. Maybe talk about the things that are currently happening in the past, like cultural events and, famous bands and stuff. And then they'll write that all in their little letter, which, if you think about it, is kind of like a very crude snapshot of a person's psyche. Almost like, because like I feel like you can sort of like infer a lot of things about a person based on the way they write as well as what they write about. I think forensic, it's a part of forensic psychology. But anyways, I maybe I butchered that. But after that, they will often include some sort of trinket, like I don't know, like a keychain holder, maybe like a stamp or a little pin or a button or a pen or some sort of like toy. And they'll put those all in some sort of capsule that is oftentimes made of a very durable material that won't bend or break under any pressure, that won't let any of the elements in, like, I don't know, like moisture, air, oxygen, radiation. Well, probably not radiation, but you guys sort of get the idea. And it also does a good job of keeping whatever's, inside the capsule from getting out. And after that, they'll seal it tightly and bury it in the ground for a predetermined duration of time, probably at least 30 years, if not longer, maybe 30 to 40 years, sometimes even up to 80 years. And after that period of time expires, well, people in the future will exhume the capsule or dig it up, and they'll open it and immediately have access to well-preserved, I guess, aspects of the past, including, people's psyches in a way, which I've talked about earlier. And that's why I feel like it's such a good analogy, because, well, yeah, I feel like ever since I stepped into this state 4 years ago, because I forget if I mentioned this, but I have been in NEET for roughly 4 years already. And ever since I stepped into this, state where I, was forced out of school for unforeseen circumstances, which I talk about in another video, like the crazy story of how I became a NEET or something like that. You guys can look it up. But ever since I retreated into my house, I feel like fundamentally, a lot of aspects of me have been preserved. And, obviously this isn't true in all cases. Like, for example, my physical appearance probably has changed, although maybe not as much as other people who have been outside a lot. But anyways, I'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, I feel like, yeah, obviously I have aged a bit. You know, Father Time spares nobody, and neither does the Norwood Reaper, the Norwood Reaper. But but yeah. So I just find that idea really funny. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, and obviously I have come to some realizations on my own. Like I've become a little bit more self-accepting, but definitely there are a lot of core enduring aspects of my personality that haven't changed. For example, my aesthetic preferences, my preferences and hobbies, and you know, my emotional states, typically my the way I respond to things, the way I respond to pain, the way I respond to negative emotions, my overall emotional like profile, like for example, the there's percentages of time in which I'm in certain emotional states at certain parts of the day, all the things that, you know, make me me, from a psychological standpoint, you know, have roughly stayed the same. And you know, what are the reasons for this? Well, I don't know. This is me sort of like winging it, but you know, oftentimes, I guess by maybe by society's standards, or maybe I'm purely talking about this from a, you know, societal perspective, which I often disagree with. But I guess take this as me like you know, playing devil's advocate. Basically, you know, when you're out in the world, you are often you know, you're supposed to be exposed to all sorts of new experiences. You know, you're supposed to, you know, travel, see the world, you know, get your first job and meet all these sorts of like developmental quote unquote milestones, and you know, travels, you know, have your first girlfriend, drive around, explore the city, drive to new cities, and you know, as well as, you know, deal with all sorts of adversity and challenges, you know, the typical like normie meme stuff, and you know, experience the world, and yeah, do all this shit. And as a result of that, all these aggregated experiences are supposed to slowly shape you and mold you as a person, and you know, turn you into some, you know, ubermensch that's supposed to be able to handle anything, you know, the world can throw at you. Like you're that go-getter millennial, you know, achiever, fucking giga improver, turbo consumer who can acquire all the latest gadgets and have access to a fun, robust, fulfilling life. And you know, obviously this isn't true for everybody. In fact, it probably isn't true for most people, but I'm just, you know, going along with a meme at this point. And yeah, I guess if that's the case, then yes, I feel like I fundamentally missed out on that. And because of that, I haven't matured as a person. And because of this, psychologically speaking, I feel like I am basically 20 or 21 years old, the age at which I stepped into this room and never really left. And as a result of that, you know, I feel like psychologically I am in a way still an adolescent, because I feel like at the age, you know, you're kind of like in between adulthood and adolescence. But because I already was a late bloomer in a lot of ways, for example, I started reading and walking and doing things at a lot later age than most of my peers. And because of that, I fundamentally feel like I'm still an adolescent. I'm trapped in my late teenage years, and I haven't changed since then. And yeah, that's definitely one aspect that hasn't endured, that has endured over time, almost as if preserved by a time capsule. And another thing that you know, hasn't changed about me that much, or less than maybe, you know, should have, you know, for the reasons which I mentioned earlier, is my appearance. Because although I am you know, I have aged, when I look back at my older videos, you know, I definitely have aged, but at the same time, I feel like, you know, I fundamentally haven't aged that much. And you know, maybe it's because I haven't been exposed to things like sunlight, maybe stress from people, maybe you know, not having a girlfriend, not dating, not, trying my hand at the dating market, not doing things like moving, running around in the sun, and being a giga chad, doing all sorts of like shit, like I don't know, like being at raves, at parties, maybe has caused my balls to stop producing testosterone. So like I feel like although I'm aging at a very decreased rate, and which might explain my very juvenile childlike appearance. Although at the same time, um, you know, I might be just giga coping at this point, and maybe I am aging like shit, and I'm just, trying not to see it. So I don't know how accurate that is, but I don't know. You guys tell me whether you think I've changed a lot appearance wise or not, apart from, the Norwood Reaper, reaping all of my hair, like my fucking cutting down my follicles, like fucking spring harvest, like wheat before the scythe. But okay, jokes aside, yeah, that's I don't know, that's maybe one thing that hasn't changed, although it might also be a stretch. And another thing that hasn't changed has been my belongings, like my room, like I guess, my material possessions, my net worth, the things that I own hasn't changed a lot. Uh, like, for example, my room, although it has changed a little bit, is mostly the same. I sleep in the same bed. I use the same blanket, the same pillows. Obviously, I wash that shit, but apart from that, it's all the same shit. And yeah, and overall, my intrinsic value hasn't changed. And yeah, so I guess in a way, I do feel like I am a relic of the past. I am almost the same person that I was since I stepped in this room. And in a way, I feel like being NEET, at least for me, has been like living in a time capsule. So now yeah, and I guess another analogy which is similar is like a prisoner that has well, maybe I'll talk about that in another video. Yeah, in fact I will. So instead I'll for now I'll talk about the implications of this, and in particular whether this is a good thing or not. And in my opinion, it really depends on who's talking. From a societal perspective, obviously, no, it's not. I've stagnated as an individual. I haven't changed at all. I have essentially remained in the same place this whole time. And I think, I'm not disagreeing or agreeing with this, but this definitely is something that people have told to me in the comment section. And, I guess I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking about me in real life, that I haven't changed as a person. And, yeah, in a way, it's almost as if although my intrinsic value hasn't changed, like it's like in terms of like how I'm valued by society, that has depreciated over time, almost like an asset. Like, how like some assets appreciate, like gold, silver, crypto, at least for the meantime. Fine wine bottles bottles of fine wine that haven't opened for years, that are of a good, I don't know, like I don't fucking know anything about fucking wine, but yeah, stuff like that like appreciates. But on the other hand, some assets like cars and especially used stuff, anything that's used will depreciate over time. And that's essentially me. I feel like because I haven't evolved and grown, quote unquote, grown according to the meme as an individual, because of that, society essentially values me less. And because of that, for example, if I were this way, 4 or 5 years ago, it would have still been socially acceptable, because, that's how you're supposed to be at that age. But because, I've remained fundamentally the same, and I'm like a piece of software that hasn't received any updates for the past 4 or 5 years. It's like the company that made me has essentially died off and has gone defunct. So I'm like some piece of unupdated software. So because of that, overall my value to society has diminished greatly. And, I don't have a lot of these skills. Like, it feels like people nowadays, more so than ever before in the workforce, are supposed to learn new skills. Even people in sort of like prestigious jobs, like, I don't know, like engineering and coding, they're constantly being forced to learn new shit, just not even to make more money, but just to be able to stay at their existing jobs and not be fucking replaced by some go-getter or some person who's just desperate to, work at a job that they've gone to school for like 4 years for. So it's like this nonstop like rat race. Whereas meanwhile, I've stepped out of this race, so it almost seems like society has left me behind. It seems like for example, compared to like my peers in my age group, at least the people that I went to high school, I'm sure they've changed a lot, or maybe they haven't changed, but they've changed a lot in the ways that society expects them to, whereas I have not changed. So therefore, my value in society's eyes has gone down. Not saying that has any bearing on my personal well-being or not, but I'm just stating it in like as matter of factly, like, I guess that is true. Like, society values me less because I've stagnated, and because I'm some relic. I'm some sort of like relic that's been preserved in the time capsule that is my room, because my room has done a fairly good job of keeping the things that make me uncomfortable out. It's kept people out, it's kept insects out, it's kept stress out, it's kept me away from working jobs, shitty jobs, which I rightly or wrongly malign, which I feel like in a lot of cases are often soul sucking and terrible. But I could be thinking that way because I simply haven't mentally matured. Maybe I just don't get it. That's a very real possibility, as much as I really don't feel that is the case. But I'm just trying to keep an open mind here and play devil's advocate, because I could be wrong. I'm not a perfect person, and it's still up for debate. Although I guess that's something I'll talk about for another time. But I guess in that way, that is one big implication that might suggest that being in a time capsule is not necessarily the greatest thing. But in a lot of ways, a lot of the innocence that comes with like being an adolescent or being a child, like I feel like for example, some will call it Peter Pan syndrome, but is that really such a bad thing? Because I feel like a lot of the enjoyment that I get out of juvenile things like anime and video games, at least for the meantime, has been somewhat preserved. Like, maybe if I got a job, then I would get really jaded, and I would not appreciate these things anymore, and in a sense I would lose my wonder. Although, what the fuck am I saying? Like, a lot of times I have seemed very nihilistic. Maybe I am like losing it already, and I just don't realize it, or maybe I'm just like coping right now. But it seems like is it such a bad thing to be childish in 2022 when the world seems to be going to shit and people's lives seem to be getting more and more atomized, more and more meaningless, more and more tedious, more and more I don't know, just purposeless and sad. It almost seems, unlike what the boomers experience, it seems like we're regressing back to fucking medieval serfdom that's enforced by some sort of like global technocracy. Like, is it such a bad thing to remain in a permanent state of childhood? I guess in my opinion, not necessarily so, although perhaps I'm not prepared for the future stresses that will come, and maybe my life will be harder and I don't realize it now, but it might be hard in the future. I don't know. These are things that I think about sometimes and that are constantly a point of debate in my mind. But again, I have no idea because I have no foresight. I'm not really living the future. It's almost as if for these past 4 years, I've been living in the present, trapped in the present, I guess trapped in the past in a way as well. But, I've been trapped in the ever-living present and past, never moving towards the future, just like, you know, something that's been locked in a time capsule has been. So anyways, yeah, I guess that is pretty much all I have to say about this topic and why being neat, or at least why I feel like I've been living in a time capsule this whole time. And hopefully haven't gone on weird tangents and, you know, gone off topic and shit, although I'm pretty sure I have at this point. But hopefully you guys find this video enjoying, and make sure to hit the like and subscribe button if you guys enjoyed this video. And this is Company signing out, and peace.